G'day Plantifiers, Jess here and welcome back to the garden. We've been busy over the last few weeks now that we're finally home from our various trips that we've been taking. So it's been time to get some good work done in the garden. First of all, some seed saving. I had these seeds from when we planted them, back in winter sometime. Some snow peas and some sugar snap peas. As you can see here, these ones are very well dried on the vine, and they are ready to be saved for next year. Unfortunately, there weren't many left on this mammoth snow pea, which is my favorite snow pea, although I still have a bunch of seeds saved from last year. I think my house sitter must have eaten all of the good ones, which is fair enough. In the Chaos Flower Garden, the nasturtiums that were blooming beautifully when we left have pretty much all died and gone to seed at this point. So it was time to pull them out and also collect the seed, because if you've ever grown a nasturtium, you know that once you have them, there is no getting rid of them. But you can do your best to minimize the crazy spread by collecting as many of the fallen seeds as possible. And of course, that means you can plant them elsewhere or share them at harvest swaps. So I've picked up as many as I can of these lovely little peach melba ones, and these are nice because they're quite small and bushy. They aren't the trailing type that kind of take over that I have elsewhere in my garden. So I've replanted a couple in here, and when the weather's right, they might resprout and give me some more nasturtiums in this spot. Then it was time to tackle the bamboo garden and all of the stuff that needed help in there. So this bed, Nick was just kind of cutting back all of the sad spinaches and letting them regrow. And then we got a whole bunch of compost, and it was time to do more seed saving and putting compost on the garden. So here I have a whole bunch of mustard greens that were incredibly good. They grew for months, they were delicious, and they've given us tons of seed. As you can see, it's like a forest of mustard green seeds. So I wanted to save as many as I possibly could, both so that we can replant them in the garden proper, also so that we can maybe grow some microgreens out of them over summer when it's really hot, because things tend to bolt really quickly in summer here. But also so I can again share these seeds with other people at some of the harvest swaps that I attend. And I don't know, there's a lot, like look how many seeds there are. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with them all, but they will get used. And lots of weeding needed to be done, as well as cutting out stuff that just didn't thrive, like these cabbages went in a little bit too late, and you can see it when we were away, they got attacked. So we had to get rid of them, sadly. You can see another few bunches of seed heads there. I think there's a big broccoli one, and in the foreground there's a lettuce gone to seed as well. I've been saving lots of lettuce seed also that had popped up around the garden. So it was a chance to really clean up and prepare for a new lot of planting, and possibly whack Nick in the face with seeds. Sorry about that, hon. Now, you can see here I'm trying to cut this off at the base, but it's being finicky, so I've just had to end up pulling it out. I usually like to cut all my plants off at the base to leave the roots in the soil to add organic matter to the soil, but sometimes a plant is stubborn and you just need to pull it out, and that's okay as well. You can see I'm using pillowcases here to save these big seed heads. Oh, I'll get back to that in a minute. This is a sad sort of broccoli cabbage thing that didn't quite go to plan, so these again had to come out and be popped in the compost. I mean, nothing goes to waste. If it doesn't grow particularly well, or it gets something, happens to it, like it gets attacked by cabbage white butterfly or whatever, it'll either go in the compost or it'll go in the green waste. And then this is some beautiful fresh compost on our asparagus and strawberry bed. You can see some asparagus popping up, which is excellent. There's a lot of spaces in various beds at the moment, so Nick's just finding something that shouldn't be in the compost. Occasionally we'll find, an old plant tag or a bit of plastic or something that's somehow gotten in there and we have to pull it out. But the most important thing was to get all of these beds covered with fresh compost so that we can get another crop in basically, and also revive some of these crops. If you watched my last video, you can see I'm just directing Nick that I'm going to be planting along that border, so please put lots of compost along there. If you watch my last video, you'll see how sad everything was when we got home due to the dry and the heat that had happened. So this is just kind of step one of recovering. You can see we've actually gotten a little bit of rain, which is fantastic. All those beautiful little seed heads. Now, to get back to what I was saying earlier about pillowcases. So these are all cotton pillowcases I'm using. They're old ones that we used to have an Airbnb, and so we had a whole bunch of white cotton pillowcases, and these were just in the rag pile. But they're a great thing to put in these sort of seed heads to collect seed, because they breathe, so they let everything dry out nicely without getting musty and gross. And also, as the seed heads pop open as they dry, you capture the seed in there. So I thought this was a really useful thing to do, is to use all these old pillowcases we had lying around to collect all of these seeds. And I have them now on my hammock, which is on the veranda under cover, and I've just spread them all out and they're just slowly drying. You could very much hang them up as well, but you want to make sure there's airflow around them. So the next step was to even out all this compost. Once it's been dumped on the beds, it needs to be flattened out and raked in or spread with your hands so that it's nice and smooth and ready to plant new things into, rather than leaving it all lumpy, and so that it's evenly distributed across the bed, of course, as well, and make sure there's no bits that haven't gotten compost. And that's especially important with beds like this, where you can see we've got a lot of stuff still growing. We have, perennial stuff in there and things that are in the midst of growing. So you need to be able to spread the compost around and underneath all of those plants as well. And crucial step is watering it in. Especially as it's been dry, I wanted to make sure that I watered these compost in really, really, really well, because the next step is to mulch. And last week I showed you how many leaves there were on the ground due to the dry season. We have a lot of leaf fall during the dry season, and we leave a lot of it on the ground, but we also collect a lot of it to use as mulch. And also we're making a leaf mold pile this year for the first time, so I'm going to see how that goes. So you have to water in the compost really well, of course, then get the mulch on top of it to keep all that water in. So this is just, we were tag teaming here. I was watering in, like spreading the compost flat, watering in the compost, and then Nick was coming behind with the wheelbarrow, and he was putting the leaf litter mulch on top of the beds. And this leaf litter is a mix of all sorts of things. There's some bits of bamboo, there's some various leaves from various types of trees, so it's got a lot of different kind of nutrients in there as well. And then once we've finished that, the last step, of course, was to water the mulch down so it was damp and didn't fly away, and also held that water in and kept everything moist. Now, I have these lovely little pineapples that are finally fruiting. I've had them for years. There's a couple in pots here, and there's a couple down the driveway as well. And I'm so excited I might actually get pineapples. So I decided to give them a little liquid fertilizer boost to help them fruit nicely and grow nicely while they were fruiting. And pineapples, gardening in general, but pineapples in particular, are one of those crops that really teach you how to be patient. It takes years to get a pineapple off a pineapple plant. You can't rush it, and it'll fruit when it's ready. So when you finally get a fruit, it's so exciting to finally get a fruit coming up from that plant that's been there for so long. I also did a bit of planting. So I planted cucumbers before we left in September. None of them germinated because they dried out, I think. So we've got some Armenian cucumbers going in here to go up this trellis, which had sugar snap peas previously in this spot. And the next one, some zucchini, golden zucchini. And I'm putting them in just a couple of spots in this bed. With the zucchini, I usually plant 2 seeds in each spot, just in case one of them doesn't germinate. So we hope they come up nicely. And of course, if 2 come up, then I either move one or just pinch one out. You leave the one that's growing the strongest and let that grow. And then I have some cucumber seeds I saved last year from these long white cucumbers, which are a variety that are excellent for our climate. They're excellent for hot, humid summer climates because they aren't as sensitive to powdery mildew. So I saved these seeds from my plant last year that was very prolific and very successful. So I was very excited to get these in because I know that they should grow well. I hope. Past experience has told me they should grow really well over this period of the year. So we'll see how they go. Since I planted these, they've come up and they're looking really strong, which is fantastic, and I'll show you that in a future video. So I popped these along this trellis, one of my arch trellises that I'm sure you've seen if you've been paying attention during the video. I've got these 2 arch trellises. And then in front of them, I've planted a few cucumbers. Now, I also planted some zucchinis, I think, in this spot before we left. So it's possible that now that the rains are back, those might germinate as well. So we'll see what happens. It's always a risk when you plant some seeds and they don't germinate, but they're still there. Maybe they started to germinate and died off, or maybe they didn't germinate at all and they're still there ready to germinate and they might come up later. Now I pulled out a bunch of flower seeds that are appropriate for this time of year because I wanted to give my Chaos Flower Garden a bit of an update because there were some gaps in there. So I collected them all together in my little bowl, mixed them all up, and it was time to put them in my Chaos Flower Garden. There is some stuff growing in here, as you can see, but there was a few things that had died back or things that hadn't grown well, and I had to weed a lot of weeds out of there. There was this random mustard green that had grown in there, and I'm like, I don't need any more mustard green seeds at this point. I think we have enough considering how much I've already collected. So I pulled that out to make a spot for some more flowers in that bed. So it's just a simple matter of spreading them over, and this is a really interesting experiment because you see what likes to germinate with little effort in your climate at what time of year. So it's going to be interesting to see out of all these seeds which ones actually come up and which ones germinate well. And then it's time to water it in, and that is that for this week's Garden Diary update. Thank you so much for watching and hanging out with me in the garden. I will see you next time. Bye for now.